In today's lesson, I will be focusing on the formation of Sequoia National Park in Sierra Nevada, California. The park is connected to Kings Canyon National Park. However, for the sake of this video, I will be focusing solely on Sequoia National Park. The park stretches about 629 square miles and is home to the world-renowned sequoia tree. And these trees aren't your normal evergreen trees. They can live for 3,000 years and it can grow up to 260 feet. A branch of the sequoia tree can have a diameter of 8 feet. It is crucial that we protect this ancient tree and their environment because they are among the world's oldest and largest organisms. My family and I went to Sequoia National Park when I was around 6 years old, and these were some pictures that we took in front of the trees, children for scale. Dating back to the late 1800s, the Harvard geologist Josiah D. Whitney traveled to the Sierra Nevada region and had 5 other teammates map the area of the Sierra Nevada mountains and everything included in the area. In 1873, more people started to hear about these massive trees, and pioneers began to settle there in the mountains and valleys. Because there were no farming restrictions, people began to allow their animals to graze, and timber companies began to chop down sequoia trees. These companies ended up chopping down 1/3 of all the trees. In 1878, George Stewart, an editor for the local Visilla Delta, strived to prohibit the cutting down of sequoia trees. In 1881, Stewart collaborated with the U.S. Senator John Miller of California in an attempt to pass a bill protecting sequoia trees. The bill did not pass. On September 25, 1890, President Benjamin Harrison signed a bill that established Sequoia National Park, America's second national park. When the bill was passed, the park was then expanded to cover Grant Grove. About 30 years later, Stephen Mather had helped to expand the park by 2,000 acres to encompass Kern Canyon and Mount Whitney. In 1940, Kings Canyon was created just north of Sequoia National Park. Later, during World War II, Kings Canyon National Park and Sequoia National Park were merged together to save the government money. In the park, the forested area lies mostly on the western side, as the more mountainous and more open area of the park is on the east side, along with Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the continuous USA, reaching 14,505 feet tall, and is made completely out of granite. In order to figure out why Sequoia is landscaped the way it is, we have to go back in time about 400 to 130 million years ago. During this time, what is today the Sierra Nevada mountain range was underwater back then. Deep under the seafloor, plate tectonics were shifting and sliding over the mantle, which has a plastic-like consistency. The Sierra Nevada mountain range was formed as a result from subduction. Subduction occurs when there are 2 different plates, in this case one oceanic and one continental. The oceanic or Pacific plate is more dense than the continental plate, or the North American, so the Pacific plate subducted underneath the North American plate. As the plate was being subducted 250 million years ago, hot water and rocks from the seafloor were taken with it and melted under the temperature and pressure of the mantle. When this happened, it created plumes of liquid rock that when it cooled and began to rise, it came through the mantle and the crust and began to solidify into rock. Separate chunks of magma slowly began to merge together, creating a huge mass of igneous rock, rocks that form through tectonic activity under the crust. About 80 million years ago, this massive rock formation began to rise in what today is known as the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Because of how this rock formation was formed, none of the mountains are volcanoes, but giant pieces of granite. The granite that makes up the Sierra Nevada mountain range contains many felsic rocks. Felsic rocks are rocks that form at a relatively low temperature, about 650 degrees to 800 degrees Celsius. These rocks contain minerals such as quartz, feldspar, and micas. In the giant forest area located in Sequoia National Park, there is a combination of igneous and metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rocks are formed when an existing igneous rock or sedimentary rock undergo extreme pressure and temperature. Granodite is a metamorphic rock that has the prolith or parent rock of granite and is the most dominant rock in the giant forest region.
Here's another picture that we took of the mountains.
Glaciers are actually the main cause of why the mountain range is shaped the way it is. You may ask yourself, how did the glaciers get to California? And the answer is simple. Over the course of the most recent 10 million years, there were ice ages that deposited massive glaciers into the southern California region. As they began to melt, they dragged across the mountain range, giving it the shape it has today. It has created some very deep valleys, most known as Kings Canyon. Glaciers still remain in the mountains today. At a high enough elevation, they don't melt as rapidly, and they still impact the rocks that formed millions of years ago. Other examples include mountains of Tibet and the Great Lakes.